Thanks for coming. My name is George Chrysolouris, a difficult Greek name, but that's okay. You can bear with me. Call me George, that's easier. And today we're going to have the session on Industry 5.0. There's a very nice poster here that shows what Industry 5.0 is all about. But before we start, we would like to first take a look at a video that talks about an award for the Industry 5.0. I will give the floor to Sean so he can maybe explain a little bit about the award.
Thank you, George. My name is Sean O'Regan. I'm the Deputy Head of the Industry 5.0 unit in DG RTD. And it's a pleasure to be here this morning to announce and give some further details of the Industry 5.0 award. This is the first ever Industry 5.0 award. It was developed in conjunction with our friends from industry, from the Manufacture Technology Platform, and from the European Factories of the Future Association. Spent a lot of time last year designing the concept and putting in place the rules for the award. The award was open to all European-funded projects launched since the 1st of September 2018, be they under Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe, or EIT Manufacturing. And the award received a very great deal of interest. We were very gratified that there were almost 60 applications for the award. That meant a lot of work for our distinguished jury to identify the finalists. And I see members of our jury are here today, Maurizio Gattilio and Joachim Menezes, and very grateful to them and the other jury members for the extensive work that was done to identify the finalists. Those of you who were here yesterday will have heard our Commissioner, Maria Gabriel, announcing the three finalists. So what we'd like to do at the start of our Industry 5.0 session this morning is to give you a taster of the three finalists and to see a little bit about those three projects as we move now to the next phase of identifying the overall winner of the Industry 5.0 award. And this will be announced at the European Research and Innovation Days in Brussels at the end of September. So I think now we will play the video to give you a first taste of our three finalists.
Thank you very much, Ron. Let's play the video.
Industry 5.0 is about people, and people are the most valuable asset of European factories.
REM PV contributes to a low carbon footprint, local and reliable supply of raw materials.
We focus on collaboration between human and human, human and machine, machine to machine, and organization to organization.
All right, I think now you got the idea what it's all about. Thanks, Sean, for the introduction. Now let's move to the session. Let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of the session. We have four distinguished speakers. The first speaker is Andrea Renda. Andrea is one of the founders of Industry 5.0, one of the brains that thought about that and worked on that. The next speaker will be Donatella. Donatella is coming initially from Comau, but now is in a different connection. Donatella will talk a little bit more about the skills and things that are needed in industry. Then we will have Panos Stavropoulos. Panos is here. Panos will talk a little bit more about manufacturing technologies and things that have to do with Industry 5.0, also from a technological point of view. And at the end, we'll talk a little bit about the concept of teaching factory. And then at the end, we will have another important guy in Industry 5.0, Stephen Dont from TNO. Stephen is very active in the subject, and he will close the session with some thoughts how we will move forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the speaker one after the other. After the end of each speech, you may have one or two questions, but at the end of the session, at the end of the fourth speaker, we will call all 4 speakers here. We will have a round table, and then you will have the opportunity to talk and discuss with them. The tool you're going to use will be Slido.
Yes, thanks for the word. So this is just organizationally wise. We'll be asking questions through Slido exclusively. So please, this would be the time to pull out your mobile phones and scan the QR code so that you get into the session and you can ask questions through that. Or you can go to Slido and you type in the hashtag Intech 2022 and you'll be able to ask questions through that.
Thank you very much, Roman. So, Andrea Renda, then Donatella Pinto, then Panos Stavropoulos, and then Stephen Dont. That's the way it's going to work. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, George. I was going on Slido because I wanted to ask a question to myself. To preempt difficult questions, right? It's always a good idea. So thanks for having me. Thanks, George, for moderating and orchestrating and coordinating this session. And thanks to all of you for participating in this event and in this session. Well, I'm a senior fellow at the Center for European Policy Studies in Brussels. I'm a professor of digital policy at the School of Transnational Governance at the European University Institute in Florence. And I'm a member of this group of musketeers, if you wish. Brave researchers. I'm very proud of being part of this group. It's now in its 3rd mandate. It advises DG Research and Innovation on a number of issues related to the future of research and innovation policy at the EU level. And we are currently working quite intensively on Industry 5.0 and in particular the relationship between Industry 5.0 and the future of work. There's in the new mandate of the ESIR group, you see the people here on screen, and the chairwoman, Sandrine Dixon de Clève, you see her on the far left. I'm the vice chair, and we are exploring ways to unpack the consequences of this paradigm shift that I'm going to show in a second, and the potential consequences for policy, for the future of investment and spending in research and innovation, and everything else that can be done at the EU and national level to accompany this transition and ensure coherence between all the, as you all know very well, the myriad of initiatives and streams of action that exist at different levels of government in the EU to promote a sustainable, resilient, and human-centric research and innovation. So just very quickly, the paradigm shift, you will see this several times. I just want to say one thing here, that scholars and commentators typically divide the different transitions and transformations in industry into 4 generations. But that doesn't mean that we currently are in Industry 4.0 everywhere, meaning the Industry 4.0 paradigm that has been cherished and nurtured also by the European Commission, but several member states over the past years, is essentially looking at the deepening of digital technologies into industry. And that is something that, if you wish, is very technical in nature. It is related to cyber-physical objects, machine-to-machine communication, and so on and so forth. But it doesn't really relate the transformation of industry to broader social and environmental and economic aspects. And this is not the era in which we have in terms of public policy. Today, everything that we do in terms of public policy has to be functional to the mid to long-term goals that we've given ourselves. So I think it was high time to work not necessarily on a new paradigm reliant on new technologies, on new technological shifts, but rather on a broadening and a transformation of this paradigm into something that is functional to everything else that the EU does in terms of mid to long-term goals. And this is why Industry 5.0 is much more related to, if you wish, the Green Deal and the twin transition than it is to finding yet another set of technologies that will transform industry. So the overall set of technologies that we're backing Industry 4.0, with some additions, I will show at least what is my understanding of the technology stack that is supporting this transformation going forward. Rather than adding many new technologies and transforming these technologies, this is about what in the academic literature of innovation would be called directionality, meaning to give in some direction and also incentives and a thrust to research and innovation so that all the endeavors, including industrial transformation endeavors, go in the direction of the twin transition. And we can discuss, if you wish, on whether this is a twin transition or what is the ultimate goal at the Commission level. I have a personal collection of ultimate goals at the European Commission, or what I call North Stars, and so I'm happy to talk about that. So the three pillars, you've seen that in the video already, of Industry 5.0 are the human-centric approach to technology deployment in general. That is something that is self-evident in a number of cases. Think about artificial intelligence, for example, but also the Internet of Things and the future edge cloud architectures. And it basically tells us, but I'll be a bit more detailed in the next slide, tells us that basically not everything that can be automated should be automated, and that the deployment of technology should start from the premise of the complementarity between human beings and emerging disruptive digital technologies. Sustainable, and I would say you see that in green, but it's not necessarily environmental sustainability only. This is also about social sustainability that also says something about the employment impacts, and we'll hear more about that, I think, in the remainder of this session. The employment impacts of the industrial transformation, how to relate that to what in other corridors of the European Commission are called transition pathways for individual industrial ecosystems. So how do we deploy? And I myself, working very much on digital technologies, know of countless ways in which you can deploy modern disruptive digital technologies in a way that is not compatible with the twin transition, is not necessarily conducive to environmental sustainability or social sustainability. I think happy to elaborate further on this. But there's also this new term that everybody uses. Sometimes it's, if anything, a little bit abused, is the resilience aspect, which comes very much from the fact that we are, if you accept this image, we are increasingly faced with growing waves and more frequent waves of emergencies and crises, especially in the past few years. The pandemic, the war, the food crisis, the energy crisis, climate biodiversity going forward. So the resilience of a system, including industrial systems, comes with specific tenets and principles that need to be deepened and unpacked a bit more going forward. And I'll try to be a bit more, but very in a sketchy way, a bit more detailed here on what some of the consequences of Industry 5.0 on this paradigm shift would mean. First of all, there's the responsibility of industry for its social and economic and environmental impacts at the whole supply chain level. And this is something that comes with a very important policy implication. The second is and here terminology is a very, to some extent, debated by many, but we've chosen in Industry 5.0 regenerative and circular economic by design as being one of the key principles. So by design and not as an afterthought of how we design industrial value chains going forward. In terms, I try to match the colors to the pillars, although that is not necessarily a perfect match, but in terms of resilience, more adaptive industrial systems, which also comes with more decentralization in the industrial architectures, more empowerment of the edges, if you wish, rather than purely reliance on individual centers of knowledge. And this makes industry less fragile. This comes also with an idea that is very high on the policy agenda in many parts of the world, which is the reshoring and diversification of supply chains, but also the creation of and the preservation of value at different moments and different parts of the supply chain, rather than what we've seen in particular with the digital transformation and what we call platformization of many industrial supply chains, which is what economists like Mariana Mazzucato have called the value capture, which deprives very often real economy players or players that are at the edges of an industrial supply chain of the fair reward for the value that they themselves have generated, and thereby the incentive to preserve and nurture human capital there. Decentralized, as I was saying, decentralized architectures increasingly are seen as more sustainable. I can elaborate on that when it comes in particular to edge architectures. I'll do that very, very quickly in a moment. And resilient, as I was saying before. Digitalization with purpose, so finding, as digital technologies, as you know, are very often general purpose and not necessarily good or bad or sustainable or unsustainable. It depends on design and how you deploy them. And I think this is an art and a craft that we need to increasingly master going forward. And also, if Industry 5.0 is a paradigm and a strategy for the European Commission, it has to come with a way to measure whether the impacts that we're generating are the impacts that we wanted. So there's this debate at the EU level on the industrial strategy already. What are they? In my opinion, improperly called KPIs. I would say impact indicators rather than performance indicators. And also for Industry 5.0, how do we measure the impacts that are being generated in terms of regenerative and circular economic models, resilient, sustainable, human-centric models. So what's the technology stack that backs it? I'm going to show you very quickly. So you're going to see, as we are still before lunch, what in the network systems and also in information system studies is called, well, by some, the lasagna, right? A layered environment, or the moussaka for George. Is the way the internet was originally depicted, right? With a layered architecture, with an infrastructure, and open standards backing traffic rules, logical layer, applications, and content. Now, the first 3 decades of this transformation, what we've seen is largely what I defined before as value capture, but also the platformization effect. So basically, the next iteration that we've seen in the first 3 decades of the World Wide Web is the emergence of cloud-based platforms, very centralized models that typically orchestrate around their business models many, many activities and tend to reap the reward in a very centralized basis. You've seen the $3 trillion companies. You've seen what new mic. Okay, the mic is an intelligent system, and I must have said something wrong. So see if this one is dumber and follows me. Thank you anyway, merci. For the EU, and this is something that I'd like to leave here as a message. The Commission representatives might not agree with me. My colleagues might not agree with me. Just want to say it because I truly believe in this. This process that has largely been about people in the first 3 decades of the World Wide Web. And obviously, there was already a movement towards machine-to-machine communication, cyber-physical objects. But today, we are really at the juncture of the transition in which the digital transformation is permeating industry. And if we will witness at the industry level the same value capture and the same concentration of power that we've seen in the sort of consumer-facing, in the B2C, sometimes we call it, environment, that's going to be not only a wake-up call, but actually a requiem for many industry sectors in Europe. And so we have this exercise that entails, sometimes we call it, agile governance to some extent for governments today, like the European Commission, the exercise of being able to do foresight and horizon scanning, see what the new technology stack looks like going forward, and at the same time understand how we use this technology stack to achieve the goals that we give ourselves in Industry 5.0. So I'm going to go very quickly because I don't want to use too much time out of respect also for the other panelists, and also because George will start throwing things at me if I am too wordy. So I'm going to do very quickly. Connectivity at the moment, 4G, 5G, 6G, many different opportunities for connectivity. Don't believe people that only tell you that 5G is the future. at the EU level, the idea of resisting the concentration of market power in the cloud through a federation of technical protocols. Very importantly, the skyrocketing number of connected things between now and the next decade, with a projected 1 trillion connected devices in 2035. And imagine today the estimate is 8 billion. With the need for many industry sectors to process information more locally, and also to develop AI that can process information and data more locally. Just give you one example. A connected vehicle, when it needs to decide because something unforeseen has happened, cannot just ship the data all the time into the cloud, have it processed there and back. It needs to act with less latency and more security. So the more the data traveled, the more you got delays, so latency, the more you have potential points of disruption and malfunctioning. We need to build what sometimes I call the peripheral nervous system of the digital transformation, whereas the cloud so far is only the central nervous system. So edge, cloud, Internet of Things are the words that will back many of the industrial transformations. We need to study how to make them compatible with an Industry 5.0 approach. I'll go much more quickly there because there what the EU is trying to do is to really transform the digital, very open architecture of the Internet into a more, if you wish, fragmented and nuanced approach to the digital transformation, where you have authentication for, in particular, data and machine-generated data, but also for human-generated data. You have data spaces that are not spaces where data flow freely, but are spaces where data are co-managed at the industrial level, and this is also another important governance innovation. And then you have, what used to be the lasagna is now very fragmented at the top, with sectoral data spaces, with the traditional open internet, and perhaps the blockchains, if you wish, the distributed ledger technologies being open, the permissionless ones, the digital platforms that we've seen emerging over the past 3 decades, and a space for digital government that will be essential also to generate services in a way that is sustainable and resilient going forward. In all this, technologies that are horizontal to this, that are very important for the future of industrial development are the ones that you see on the sides. The personal and industrial data control interfaces, sometimes we call them PIMS, or personal information management system, or industrial information management systems. See a couple examples there. And then, importantly, artificial intelligence powering almost all these layers, and cybersecurity as well, being pervasive throughout. Okay, so just to leave you with this thing, I'm going to be very quickly wrapping up. What we see, and we have produced papers on Industry 5.0 in the SEER group. We also organized a roundtable recently with industry leaders, finding a lot of interest and a lot of support in industry. It's a new role also for all the, if you wish, for some of you, and the term will be familiar, the quadruple helix part of the around Industry 5.0. So a new role for government. I will not go through each and everything, but I'm happy to take questions. Policy coherence, competition policy, and co-designing things and co-determining things with stakeholders. A new approach to corporate governance, again, responsibility at the supply chain level, and most importantly, trying to go beyond what has been until now the dominant paradigm in corporate governance, what we call shareholder capitalism and even stakeholder capitalism, building a sense of accountability and responsibility at the value chain level that hasn't existed before. So I don't go through all of this because I want to wrap up within 1 minute. So finally, we will need to build and engineer into EU policy horizontal and vertical coherence at the sectoral level, at the overall cross-cutting level, at all levels of government. Okay, so I just show you the complexity of what we're trying to do in SEER to support DG R&I is the areas of policy that we think are affected by all this, EU policy and national policies. I'll leave them on screen for maybe a few seconds for you to parse through them, and you see on the right a little bit the bottom line. A new economic paradigm for policy, a vision for systemic transformation in industrial ecosystems, and true multi-level governance to streamline implementation of transformative projects around the vision of Industry 5.0. A footnote, and then I'll leave you to the next speaker. You shouldn't think, and this, as a free thinker, I take responsibility for this. You shouldn't think that the Industry 5.0 approach is now the new vision for industry at the EU level and in the European Commission. this would not be a fair statement. The GRNI is championing this approach. Many other parts of the European Commission have been reluctant to abandon what was a big engine of reflection, change, and policy, which is the Industry 4.0 approach. And my sense is that the Industry 5.0 approach is gradually permeating other parts of the European Commission, but I wouldn't say this is a fait accompli. This is actually a much tougher battle that we fight intellectually every day inside EU institutions and also with the member states. It is challenging, it is demanding, but it's perhaps the only way we have to make sure that the industrial transformation is in line, not with better competitiveness in industry only, but with an industry that is functional to the way in which we picture the European society and economy going forward, and certainly by the end of the decade. George, I'll stop there, give you the microphone, I actually leave it here, and I'll go sit down, and I'll see you later in the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for the very intellectually rich talk, I think, visionary talk, how things will look in the future. So thank you very much, Andrea, again. Questions at the end of the session, better, so that we will move to the next speaker, who is Donatella Pinto. Donatella brings a lot of experience from industry, and I think we are very thankful for her to come here and sort of share this experience with us. Donatella, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, George. It's an honor to be today with you, and it's really a pleasure to share some experience from myself point of view in the company. Just a few words to introduce myself. Until the end of last year, I was the Chief Human Resource of Comau. Comau is an industrial company, automation company, worldwide leader in industrial automation. And I also covered the role of Chief Learning Officer of CA until the merge with PSA and became now Stellantis Group. Now I am part of two organizations. One is AMROP. AMROP is an executive search company. And Arca Partners is a company that I founded together with some colleagues. This is a manufacturing management consulting company that I specialize in manufacturing. My long expertise in human resource, and I focused particularly on, obviously, on education-related issue on the human resource. So what I would like to share with you today is the point of view of the company, internal point of view of the company, about what is application of new technologies in the company. In a lot of speech yesterday and today, I listened to talk about skills, talents, and so on. So what I would like to share with you is how I think would be a new and quite effective approach to develop this into the company. As first, as you know, technology involvement, technology knowledge change are exponentially more fast than organizational change. So that is really an issue when you look at from the company perspective, because the potential of the technology that we can apply to manufacturing process, but not only, generally speaking, the digital and all the company process, the potentiality is very high, but very frequently the organization are not ready. So organization need more time to change. And this time sometimes brings the organization to require a real reset on how the organization need to face the technology. That is the first challenge, because if you are not able in the company to understand deeply what means apply technology from the organizational point of view and software, human resource matter point of view and skills and so on, that will, avoid really application and really enjoy to the technological opportunity. One of the main, concern of the company, and this is a recent requirement about what the CEO think about the application of digital. They have two main challenges. The first one is related to the workforce. And when we talk about the workforce, we are talking about, obviously, critical skills that are the content skills. No? Yesterday we were talking about artificial intelligence or related skills, in which there are really a scarcity, generally speaking, at the worldwide level, but also how the people could find, be supported to express these skills, these competencies in the company. So the fact that to be able as a company to attract, retrain workers is one of the main challenges more frequently. We are talking about a great resignation this timing, as you know, probably. The other is how we can use really digital opportunity, how we can apply this, execute this in the company. And so this poor execution is a challenge because, as I told before, the two ingredients, technology and opportunities, but also in other sense, organizational maturity and knowledge maturity in the company could slow down this. And as you see, normally CEO are very concerned about the budget and money, and that is not the problem now. The problems are really related to the human resource and the ability to use the technology in the appropriate way with the right change attitude. So what do we need? We need absolutely a holistic approach. What I mean is that we need to balance in the application, the company of technology, a strategy, a change manager approach, a mindset in which we can balance the technology. So all this related to how the technology opportunity have, the know-how, the data, all the, the advantage that we can have applying technology, but also look into the process, how the process could be really improved using technology. Because sometimes we are assisting to use technology in a small piece of the process. In related piece that are specific piece in the process, not having an overview, complete overview in the process, how the process could change in the company using technology and having an opportunity to integrate it too. One of my experience, I am also professor at Catholic University in a Master of Science that is named Innovation Technology Management. And in my course, the challenge is to propose to the young student that they don't know anything about the company process, giving them some experience about technology. We are talking about people that are not engineers, so they are not specialists, they are generalists, okay? And giving them a challenge, giving them an approach, a method to face the challenge, and putting the student together with the business leader, they will be able to provide a solution, innovating the process. So this kind of approach is an approach needed. So we need to use with a more candid approach, a new view on the process. And when I mean process, I'm not talking about only manufacturing, obviously. That is, from that point of view, the more investigate. But also, for example, human resource, marketing, finance process. To have a more candid approach, and we can innovate also in the company. And that is something that company has to consider. Then, last but not obviously least, is people. So we need to develop the people, just not only the skills, content, the skills, content of technology, but obviously what is related to the new mindset and how this skill could change also the job in the company, and how we can permit people to join a company giving this kind of new skills and to be effective in a new job. The challenge of applying all the concepts of technology for digital in the process transformation is very clear when you talk about manufacturing. In manufacturing, you can quite easily to put together the lean thinking and the digital. And you can also split each single operation, measuring the skills, the new skills that you need for the operators using that kind of technology applied to the specific operation. What is more challenging is to put all this knowledge, to put all this skill, to put all this operation in a more complete way, a more complete frame, and to use the complete frame to innovate the process. What does that mean? That we are assisting, from that point of view, really what is named as skill disruption. As you can see, the new emerging skills will have a really big step advance. There will be a gap, a very sudden gap in which the current skill will be not enough, and we need new skills. You can see also on the right that there will be a lot of new jobs that doesn't exist now, and there will be a lot of obsolete jobs in very small time. You have to consider that there is a research that is telling that the kids that are at primary school now, more than 6% of them, they will have a job which don't exist yet. So what this means, how we can prepare this person, this young, of that kind of challenge, on that kind of disruption. So in my point of view, what we need to work is what is named fundamental skills, foundational skills. So we need to use a combination, of skills that are not only the technical skills that we'll need about technology, but are skills that will support how to apply the technology to the business, how to apply the technology, create jobs based on technology. This means that we need to talk about human skills that are, obviously, they are not all the skills we need, obviously, we are some of the skills that could be related on this. For example, for sure, we need more work on more analytic skills, obviously, and on critical thinking skills. Communication will be key, but also leadership and change management will be human skills that will need to drive technology, to apply technology to the business. On the other hand, we need also to have an innovation mindset, innovation skills. We need to talk about this. We need to create these skills. We need to create this path in education on the schools, in education on the workers, in reskilling, upskilling. So innovation mindset, innovation, ability to extract the meaning about what is the technological impact. I think that will be another key aspect on these new foundational skills. And then at the end, we need obviously also to understand what does mean, what the process, what the business, which is the meaning to use this technological opportunity to the business, how the business is reshaping. So the mix of these three will be the basis, will be in which we can build on creating all the technical skills that we need. This is one of the aspects that if we can able to be take care, that will support the company adoption of technology. What I mean that in the new role path, to create a new job, we have to put together different kind of approach, a different kind of content. So from one side, we need to obviously have the technical skills that is needed, but also all the human-related skills like the team skills, or what is named the power skills, communication, leadership, motivation, engagement, ability, and so on. And then also we need to have the opportunity to enlarge the work experience, also simulating work experience, also outside of the business context. And that will be made also for create not only upskilling and reskilling path for people that are working, but also to do this in university with a student, to help them to be able more to develop the understanding what is the dynamics of the world of work, and also to encourage them to find their path in these new jobs that does not exist. So they need to find their path from themselves. So the mix of these ingredients will create the new role, the new job. This is one experience that we made as Comau, and in which we try to translate all this training and learning context in a physical environment that we name a Human Technology Hub, in which we put together the technology and the competence and the job requirement of a job, and we create a training path related to three different kind of areas. One was a mindset, in which we train people and train company to understand what it means to apply technology to their process. This is on the manufacturing area, obviously, but that will inform also different process. Then we work more in the job. So we work more in the skills needed for covering job, both on executive programs, so creating human technology programs in which they can experience and understand what the technology will impact in their company, but also creating professional skills and at the end, the job certification. So the job certification is another kind of aspect that I think we need to work also at the European level. So we need to understand which are the basis of this new job and try to understand which are the most important content of this. Last but not least, this is my last chart, is how to pass this learning. Because we are talking about, until now, about the content, what we have to teach to the people. But how we teach this to the people make the difference. What I think is that we need to have an approach very integrated, in which the human characteristics are the basis of this. If obviously content is something that we need to transmit, but the way to how we are to transmit this could be more effective if we are made by relations, because usually in a company you learn your job also based on relation with the colleagues, and based on relation with your bosses, an example, but then also in the action. And this action could be influenced also by a unique experience. So we need to teach the people how they can learn by their experience, even if these experiences are made in unsuccess. No, they are bringing them to a success. The lesson learned approach is not so used in the company. We need to improve this more. I mean, this effective training approach that are balance all content, experience, and relationship, I think will be the way that has to inform not only the company education, but also the education that are now in the society. In this way, I think that we will support the human-focused approach also in technology. Thank you very much for your attention. I leave to George my mic.
It's a very interesting talk to see how people think from industry about skills. Typically, a lot of professors talk about skills. It's better to see also how industry people are thinking about skills. So let's move to the next speaker. Thank you very much, Donatella. We appreciate your experience and impact. Panos is having the floor. He's going to talk a little bit more about technology and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Professor. Good morning to all. It's a great honor and a great pleasure to be here with you. And yeah.
I hear that there are a lot of questions in Slido, which is a very good thing. However, because there will be a lot of questions, could you somehow rate the interest of your questions so that we somehow select the ones that the audience has more interest to hear the answers? I would appreciate that if you can do it so that we can handle as much as possible. Thank you. Panos, sorry about that.
Not problem. Thank you again. Good morning from my side. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here with you. Just a short introduction from where I'm coming from. I'm Panos Stavropoulos. I'm coming from LMS, Laboratory for Manufacturing Systems and Automation, in the University of Patras in Greece. And needless to say, founder of the lab is Professor Louis that is chairing this session. Slide set of today, I would like to point out some of the manufacturing and training perspectives along the lines of Industry 5.0. We are currently experiencing, of course, the change from Industry 4 to Industry 5. And if we try to sum up in a sentence what Industry 4 would prefer to do was to network to connect all items and all issues and all sensors in a production environment. Industry 5.0, on the other hand, tends, or what we try to do is to find the right balance between human and technology. And this is going to be done, this is going to be tried to be achieved through three basic pillars: the human-centric pillar, the sustainable pillar, and the resilient pillar. Moving in a bit of more technical details, if we look into a factory layout or a production environment, we can see some basic, or we can discuss about some basic Industry 4.0 aspects. For instance, we did have Industry 4.0 monitoring aspects that we did connect and fuse sensors. We did achieve machine-to-machine communications through dashboards and so on and so on. But now filtering this kind of advancement through the Industry 5.0, we will try and we should work towards integrating some more aspects of monitoring, for instance, some social aspects of monitoring in the production environments. On the quality assessment instance, for example, we have achieved automated inline quality assessment, near real time, total quality assessment of all parts produced. But we have now to somehow try to include the knowledge and the wisdom of human into the quality assessment criteria. And this is something that can be done, or we do foresee to be achieved through Industry 5.0 technologies and aspects. And lastly, at Industry 4.0 control aspects, we did have worked with network intelligence, controls as service, and again, filtering all this information through resilience and sustainability pillar. We will aim to have human into the loop for real-time optimization. If we try to somehow categorize or to match the operations of manufacturing, we have to plot, or we have to put at the other side, as we can see in the left side of the screen, the human needs. So we have to, in order to be able to achieve, to progress, and to be able to integrate and get the most out of Industry 5.0, we have to somehow connect and link the human needs to the manufacturing operations requirements. How we do perceive and how we do operate and how we do foresee the advancements of Industry 5.0. I would like to state a quote that our mentor, Professor Christodoulis, has indicated, and this is the way that we work in LMS. We try to perceive, we try to investigate, we try to optimize manufacturing looking into three different perspectives. The lower level, the process level, where we do have the mean and material, the machine and material interaction. Moving up, leveling up, we do have the machine to machine, robot to robot, robot to human interaction, the machine level. And finally, at the upper level, the overall perspective, the system level, where we do want to look into the aspects of planning, scheduling, simulation, and so on and so on. Needless to say that all these levels are very, very strongly coupled together. Input to one is output to the other, and vice versa. And this is the way that we have to look into to Industry 5.0. And starting from the lower level, we can identify the process level, we can identify different areas that are state-of-the-art and existing technologies are being applied, such as alarm management, complexity manipulation, quality monitoring through technologies of AI, machine learning, data science, deep learning, and so on and so on. But try to link them and move towards the connection with the challenges of Industry 5.0, human model interaction, human in the loop of the workforce, enhancing knowledge by two ways, and many others. Some practical examples of the developments that we have in our lab, and these are sourcing from either European research funding projects or EIT manufacturing funding projects or any other bilateral projects that we are working on. For instance, we have achieved the cognitive load reduction. Okay, we are now talking about reducing or taking effort from human to be along the lines of cognitive control and cognitive cognition. This has been done through, for instance, through AI-based recognition of defects in a vehicle frame. Okay, so this retrieves and reduces the effort of the human to be able to control and to manipulate the operations. Of course, along the lines of human, we also have the physical load reduction through instance in the middle column of the slide. Design of a universal customized gripper to facilitate a robot bend cell. This is the interaction of human to machine interaction. Or the model human communication. Now we're talking about the communication of the human to a computer model that works towards the extraction of knowledge regarding defect detection using explainable AI. Leveling up and moving into the machine level, also one of our key achievements is one of the three candidates for the Industry 5.0 award, the CELOC project. We do have the machine level now, we do have the different challenges that have to do with physical human-robot collaboration, much room for developments and much room for applications of such examples. Challenges, of course, have to do with physical human-robot interaction, AR-based operator support, robot-to-human communication, various activities, process perception, workplace monitoring, tasks and actions planning, and smart programming, and some indicative workflows that we tend to achieve or we aim to achieve, automatic risk assessment, HRC training, and many others. Again, some practical examples from developments. Aims have to do with safety, for instance, using AI-assisted production, safety and quality inspection, again, with human activity recognition, VR training and operator upskilling. Now we are moving into the objective of quality and cognitive load reduction. So we are trying to make humans work smarter, not harder, okay? And try to use their best parts in the parts where machine is not yet ready to be used. Again, ergonomics and cognitive load reduction through the virtual reality simulations and ergonomics, and human activity prediction in order to improve safety and again reduce or streamline the production processes. And finally, in the upper or system factory level, we are now looking into various system operations, for example, scheduling, production, service system, and circularity. A lot of highlight should be paid in the resilience and sustainability parts and pillars of Industry 5.0. And again, a couple of practical examples. For instance, in order to achieve or go towards the hyper-customization, we are integrating of extra criteria into supply chain management and so on and so on. Of course, all these technical achievements and advancements that we need to do are going alongside with training and skilling, reskilling and upskilling initiates and tasks that should be performed. There is a big batch of technologies, of course, that they are being implemented, they are being communicated, and they are being developed. And we have to somehow make sure that these technologies are being transferred correctly to the new workforce, to the new students. One of the ways to be done is one of our key activities in LMS, the so-called teaching factory. Teaching factory is a two-way communication, a two-way knowledge transfer between academia and industry. So we try to connect and try to get out of the best parts of both worlds, okay? So we try to communicate to the industry the openness, the paradigm-free solutions and perceptions of the students, and on the other hand, retrieve from the industry the real-time, real-life and real-time industrial problems that need to be resolved. Key activities, and this is a flagship project that we have been running under the framework of EIT manufacturing, is the so-called TF KnowNet, and it has to do with setting up a network of teaching factories in the European continent. So we are linking many academia parts with many industrial parts, and we are working towards expanding and enriching and reskilling and upskilling students or workers. For instance, we had a case that ran during the last year that we were training a number of almost 100 persons from Volvo regarding new challenges and new aspects of additive manufacturing. And of course, such paradigm has added values also for academia and also for industry, but I will not go in very much details, but the main thing is that we try to connect and to reconnect and get out of both different worlds the best things in order to be able to advance and be able to implement the Industry 5.0 objectives. Thank you for your time, and I will be waiting for your questions during the session afterwards.
Thank you very much, Panos. We appreciate, we try somehow to connect technology with Industry 5.0 in a way to blend it. So let's go to Stephen, the last speaker, who is one of the sort of very active academicians in Industry 5.0. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, George. So, if we want to make Europe
a more sustainable place, we need to make Industry 4.0 more successful. And this will only happen if we understand how everyone at the workplace will make better use of these Industry 4.0 technologies. It is about the fit of technology to the human, but it's also about a more broader concept. It's about going further than the individual human. It's about the Industry 4.0 becoming more socio-centric. So Industry 5.0 is more than just human-centric. I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to present Industry 5.0 as a concept during a conference together with the European Commission at the Hannover Messe, the home, the lion's den of Industry 4.0. And so you can understand that our German colleagues, they told us, well, Industry 4.0, it's like Kartoffel, it's like Autobahn, so why are we now discussing something to change that is such a mark in the market? Well, Industry 5.0 needs to be really launched because we are confronted by a lot of limitations, a lot of things that are not making the technologies of Industry 4.0 a success. We also had the opportunity during this conference to look at the stands of the Siemens, which had a 75-meter long stands with all kinds of technologies that they are developing at this moment. And the thing that struck me most was the pride that these engineers had in showing these technologies to us. It's not about the fact that they had all these technologies, but that they were in control of these technologies. And that's the idea that I want to share with you. We need to bring this control of technology to the center of the discussion. So, my name is Steven Dont. I'm from TNO. I'm also a professor at the University of Leuven, and I'm the coordinator of one of the Horizon 2020 projects still on the industrial and technological transformation called Beyond 4.0. So we launched the idea more than 4 years ago about the fact that there had to be something beyond 4.0, so we're quite happy that with the European Commission we're talking about Industry 5.0. The idea and the main question is, when are these Industry 4.0 technologies successful? We've had several presentations in showing that we need technological additions to the idea of Industry 4.0. But let me just give you a real-life case, two cases, in this case, two Belgian companies, in which they had same technologies, same Industry 4.0 technologies, visors, which were connected to systems, where they used the same consultant, where they used the same kind of tasks, in this case, order picking tasks, and where they had the same requirements to improve productivity in general in these companies. But we saw totally different outcomes. In the one case, we saw that the people and those employees working with these technologies were able to understand what was happening with these technologies. And they said, well, it does not work as it should. We need to be able to change these technologies to our needs and to what we think is going to be more productive. And they adapted the devices to handhelds and to all kinds of different setups. They changed the procedures that were in the software, and they were able to get to more productive solutions with these Industry 4.0 technologies. In the other company, it was a totally different picture. Their management said, we have these visors, we've invested in this, and you workers are going to work with these technologies as they are. There was a disconnection between what the visors gave us information and how this SAP system worked with the information that was uploaded. The procedures that were implemented into devices were less productive than what the workers had devised themselves. In the end, this technology was not adopted, and the company lost this investment. So even if we look at the kind of technologies, it is not the technology itself that will make the technology successful. You need this social environment, this kind of social environment to make better use of the possibilities and capabilities of the technology. Just a question, how many of you are engineers here? Engineers? So there are a lot of engineers here. So it's always very hard for social scientists to explain to engineers how they should change their behaviors and their practices in companies. But let me go to engineering heaven. This is an example of FANUC, which launched nearly 20 years ago, an example of a lights-out manufacturing situation. This was a company that made robots, and they had robots making robots. Is there not anything better than this in the world for an engineer, having robots producing robots? Well, this is the picture after 20 years. You can see at the right side how the company is performing. And you can see that the number of personnel has only been rising over time. The number of personnel went from 4,000 to 8,000 at this moment. And the number of products getting out of the company is not rising in that kind of speed. So you can see that added value is decreasing over the years. And FANUC is in a world where the number of robots demanded by industry is rising enormously. It is not technology itself that will make technology work. It's the fact that you need good organizations. I think Donatella also pointed that out. You need an environment in which these technologies can be made a success. There are many limits to Industry 4.0 that we see each day. There are a recent survey in Germany on the adoption of Industry 4.0 shows that only 22% of German companies in fact implement these kind of technologies. And if you look at these 22%, the depth of the integration and adoption of these technologies is quite limited. So we have all these fantastic technologies, we have all the possibilities of these technologies, but they're not adopted in these companies. Donatella pointed out you need the skills, you need the management skills, you need the acceptance by the employees to make these technologies more successful. So you need to overcome these limits to make Industry 5.0 come about. So the growth is not visible, and even the fact that we do have examples of fantastic companies, these examples are not followed by the rest. We were in Hanover, we were discussing with Siemens what they were doing, and they showed us enormous amounts of possibilities. So you could go from experimenting with software, trying to find out what markets wanted as product, having testing environments also in a digital environment, then going to additive manufacturing and making experiments, all still in a digital environment, and then only at the end trying to produce those things that are really necessary in a green fashion. But these companies are only few, and we see that there's a rising gap between the leaders and the followers. And this gap from 2000 to today is larger and larger. We need ecosystems in which we are able to share these kinds of technologies between companies. We're talking about the possibility to share these ideas, but they are in practice not shared between companies. We need to create ecosystems which are what Mariana Mazzucato would say, not parasitic, but rather ecosystems in which companies do share their ideas so that we can upscale these technologies to a better situation. So
we need a new societal context. We need to understand that it's not only about platforms. We need to create platforms that are not a risk to employees. We need to create platforms that are a better environment for the use of technologies. We need to create ecosystems that are not parasitic. We need to understand that technology at the workplace is not something that's only focused on substituting employees, but is working in a different way. And we need a social environment with social systems that are not focused on the wrong things, like, for example, universal basic income. And this requires also public intervention. Not so much public intervention as just trying to repair what is going wrong, but where we need public intervention to shape new markets, to find a way forward. Industry 5.0 is one way to do that. And in our project, we have looked at these possibilities to tackle that. So we're looking at technology as an opportunity. We're trying to understand how these ecosystems work, how you can create this kind of upscaling, what is the entrepreneurial behavior that you need in these ecosystems. We also are looking at ways at how technology is not substituting workers, but how they augment employees. So we can have the example, as Donatel said, that technologies are changing skill requirements, but there are still skill requirements needed. We know that even today, 85% of work in manufacturing environments is still manual. And the frontier will move, but at the end, we will still have 85% of operations manual. So we need to have things that can augment the worker. And we need social support systems that help us training and helping people to transform and become mobile from one company to another. So if we want to have Industry 4.0 become more successful, we need this step over to Industry 5.0. And we need to understand that it's not only about human-centric, that we need to adapt technology to the human, but we need to make this step to social-centric, where we have this social environment that can make companies more successful and productive. Thank you, George.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I appreciate that. I think you got a rather wide spectrum of aspects of Industry 5.0 from the very beginning to the end of the talks. So now I would like to have the speakers in front here, if it's possible. And then let's move to the Skildo to sort of see the questions that we have. I will stand. So how do we do? Can we? You can see the questions. All right. How do you see the link between the Industry 5.0 concept, the Industry 5.0 concept, and the trustworthy IA concepts and its key 7 requirements? To tell you the truth, I do not know what is the IA. I can help you maybe. All right. Okay, who would like to take the floor first? Andrea, go ahead.
I can take it also because I was a member of the high-level expert group on artificial intelligence at the European Commission that published in April 19 the ethics guidelines for trustworthy artificial intelligence, and then we worked on translating those 7 requirements, those 4 main principles into 7 requirements. I think they are a fairly good basis for developing an assessment framework for other digital technologies too. There's a need to fine-tune them. But what I want to remark is that I think one good victory for Industry 5.0 has been the following. The 7 key requirements for trustworthy AI have been translated into a regulatory framework for high-risk artificial intelligence applications. But when the European Commission presented the Artificial Intelligence Act in April last year, one had gotten lost. It was the general requirement of orientation towards societal and environmental well-being of artificial intelligence systems. The work of the European Parliament and the Council has brought back that requirement into the Artificial Intelligence Act. So what you will see, although limited to what we considered will be considered high-risk artificial intelligence applications, and happy to elaborate further on this, of course, is that not only there will be a need to test the, say, socio-technical robustness of AI systems, not only there will be a need to test their alignment with fundamental rights, for example, non-discrimination, depending on the applications. Many industrial applications would not necessarily fall under high risk, but there is a safety requirement as well, so they might fall under the AI Act under safety, so robustness becomes very important. But the design of those systems and their deployment will need to also abide by rules of trustworthiness in the sense of general orientation towards the well-being of workers and the sustainable and resilient solution with respect to society and the environment. So I'll stop there, but I'm happy to
Thank you very much, Andrea. Let's move to the next one, which is the purpose and aspiration of Industry 5.0 is evident. What is less obvious is the name used. Could it not be called something else to reduce confusion with Industry 5.0, Industry 4.0? I have heard that many times, this issue of the naming, particularly in Germany, but not only in Germany, also in Scandinavia. They say that, you know, it's a little bit confusing. So, who would like to take somehow from the audience? Who? Steve.
Yes. Well, I had the same question, of course, when I was at the Hannover Messe.
That's right.
So the lion's den of Industry 4.0, we were talking with Festo and with the ministry, and their argument is that, well, Industry 4.0 is so embedded and we should keep it. Of course, I don't think that anyone here is wanting to let Industry 4.0 disappear just like that. But we have to understand that Industry 4.0, as it is in the German context, is not the same as it is in the Dutch context, as it is in the Flemish context, or in other countries. There are a lot of deviations in how Industry 4.0 has been developed and how it works. It's maybe not in Germany the case, but it's certainly in the Netherlands. It's a very much more technical kind of application, and we need something to bring it out of that environment. And I think personally that Industry 5.0 is very helpful for that purpose, and will be able to guide us. But as Andrea has said, this is an ongoing discussion. But I do support from our side the move over to Industry 5.0.
Yes, sure.
I want to add something to Steven's comment, because I saw another question on Slido, so perhaps I'll take the opportunity to super quickly answer that one. One of the reasons why Industry 5.0 could be a useful framework and label is that it also relates to the idea of Society 5.0 that was launched in Japan, which is about human flourishing. And it has several consequences in terms of the future skills that will be needed and also the future of humanity in the age of pervasive digital technologies. So I'll stop there because I already spoke too much.
Yeah, I think, no, that's fine. I think that issue of Society 5.0 in Japan is something that needs to be considered. Anyway, I don't think we need to get stuck so much with the names. The important thing is the content. What is behind the name. Anyway, let's move to the next one. How to take into account the SSH research about the use of digital technologies to be sure that there is an improvement in performance, trust, and acceptability. Maybe Stephen would like to give that.
So, of course, coming from the SSH research, we're doing a lot of things to bring this kind of knowledge into these kind of projects. So I've just finalized in the Belgian context a 4-year collaboration together with mechanical engineers, trying to understand how the application of, for example, cobots can be more successful in the environment. One of the core ideas is something that has been also already presented by Panos, I think, on the learning and the teaching factory, the kind of environments that you need to create for learning and skills at the workplace. And there's a lot of behavioral research needed to understand how to make that more productive and more successful. That's one core. A second is there are results from the Eurobarometer, the flash Eurobarometer on SMEs and how they are adopting these industry 4.0 kinds of technologies. And one of the main reasons why these technologies are not successful is because of the resistance at the shop floor. So you need to understand in which context you're going to introduce these technologies, how you can create environments which are more acceptable for those working at the shop floor, and how they can have their role in developing and co-developing these kinds of technologies.
Very good, Stephen. Thank you very much. Let me move to the next one, and actually the one after the next. What kind of skills we have to develop to extract the human needs and to involve these needs in the designing process? I would like to have maybe Donatella say a few words.
Thank you, George. I think for sure that we have to develop all the human skills to do this. So as first, I think that we need to use the listening, the understanding, psychological understanding, the social skills, the interaction, the connecting dot skills. I think that all of these skills will explain better what will be the human needs to apply technology into the job environment and the skill, but also in society, because I think that the impact on society is very relevant, even if we are not to consider too much at the moment, like in Japan. But we need to go deeper on this. And I will take this opportunity so to answer this question, if I may, to answer the other question that was on the training. There was a question related, is the hand of not to train the workforce? There was a question later. I think that this is true. So company need to invest more in training. The company needs to have, that is quite, evident of a lot of companies have an opportunity to meet that they need to have their own academy organization that will take care about training for the workforce. So we are now in the world in which there is the life and learning. So we have to continue to learn all the day to day. So I think that for sure all the workforce, better than me that automation will distract, even they will overcome all manual job, most of them. If you can describe a job, that will be automated, for sure. What we need to focus is in the human skills. So we need to focus on all the skills that we can develop in the relationship, in the application of technology, in the innovative process, and so on. And this is, I think, is the most challenging question for engineers that are more focused on technology than a human being, normally.
Thank you. Andrea, you want to add
to make things a bit more lively by asking a question to Donatella directly, because you referred to a pragmatic approach also in your presentation, right? And but what I hear also in many discussions, and also what I'm working on, is the idea of enhanced resilience by being prepared to learn or learning to learn, meaning learning to constantly adapt to different situations. And my question is, do you think this requires more theoretical, solid foundations? So it's like, if you know very well the fundamentals, for example, you are better able at adapting to new things, or do you believe in more training on the job and constant retraining on the job?
Honestly, I think that for sure to have this basis on the knowledge will give you an advantage. But I think that particularly in a company environment, the motivation, the engagement of the people make a difference. So when you have to apply change management in the company and 5.0, 4.0, all the innovation required, this is the basis. You have to use the change management approach to understand the deep motivation of the people. So I think that in my experience, very often people, they came in the company and they are different when they are outside. No? If you are creating this barrier in the company, you will never succeed to make this change. So you need to go to the motivation, single motivation people, to have them for your board, and then to push them to use the learning as an opportunity opportunity to understand better what is required of them, how to be successful. So, I mean, and taking care also, I mean, explaining technology, people that are not a technology, basis, I think is the best way to do this, because technology is all, is in everything we are doing in our normal life. That will be the same in the company. We need just only to explain it, to find the right way to engage people in this sense.
All right, let's go to the next one, which I will give to Panos. Is our current European university structure fit for purpose in the evolution of Industry 5.0, or do we need a complete rethink? Maybe the teaching factory concept comes into the game here.
Yeah, okay. Of course, we are talking about now to do different things, but if we try to make a mapping, we can estimate that the universities are creating or are building on the human, and on the other hand, the industry and the market is the technology. So trying to create this fuse between and this cooperation as along the lines of Industry 5.0, we have to somehow try to connect academia to industry. And one of the, as we have seen in the presentation previously, one of the key points, one of the flagships is the teaching factory concept that connects industry to academia and promotes this cooperation along the lines of I 5.0.
Thank you very much. So teaching factory is the name of the game in terms of connecting the universities with the industrial practice. That's one concept. So let's move to the next one. How to really involve end users and how to provide a cognitive and human behavior assessment of the use of digital technologies. That's a very good question. Who would like to take Stephen?
Yes. Well, it's a very broad question. So at the one side, it's about how to introduce new technologies at the shop floor. But at the second time, it's also about what end users, customers are doing with these technologies. So it's two worlds. So it's a bit hard to just give one simple answer to this. But just to give some notions. So one thing is that we have to understand that we should not over-design technologies. So if we want to introduce technologies into the companies, we have to know that these technologies need to be redeveloped and improved during performance, because as an engineer, you probably want to have all the variables under control, but there's always this one extra variable that you don't have under control. So it's better to design technologies that do engage employees in companies to help improve those kind of technologies. So you need to have a concept in which you involve these users to co-develop technologies. So you don't really need to have a full cognitive and human behavior assessment before that to make sure that you cover it all. You just have to understand that there has to be a process before introducing technologies, but also once technologies are there to help improve those technologies during the lifetime of these technologies. So it's I would not over-engineer these technologies to solve all these issues at the forehand, because the hardest thing is to understand all the limits of this human behavior.
Andrea wanted to add something.
Yeah. Just to complement what Steven was saying, I wanted to tell you a story, George, and also the others. I'm not just telling only to George. If you want, I can tell you later. No, a few months ago, I was in a conference on data science, right? And organized by Microsoft, and I was a discussant of a data scientist. And a data scientist from Microsoft said, more recently, we're quite proud because we fixed fairness. Okay. And I said, what do you mean you fixed fairness? You talk to a lawyer, they faint, they fall off the chair. And what do you mean you fixed fairness? I mean, you implemented into your lines of code one of the 21 recognized definitions of fairness in artificial intelligence and machine learning. But fairness for end users and also for lawyers and social scientists, is largely not only about process, but about outcomes. And this, I want to use this anecdote to answer some of these questions, because first of all, if you don't embed social sciences and humanities in the design of technologies from the early stage, you will never get this additional interdisciplinary vision that is needed to generate trust in digital technologies and to ensure their orientation towards not only human-centric but resilience and sustainability. This says something about university curricula as well, which I think, we see that happening in many universities, that, for example, ethics courses, but also policy courses are being incorporated in some of the top universities into engineering courses of study. And there's and the end user perspective, and what is perceived by end users as something that is trustworthy, very much depends on the interaction between systems that are consumer facing and human behavior. So there's talks about, for example, studies on so-called hyper-nudging or manipulation of human behavior, or confusion between human and non-human interlocutors. And this is entering the design of systems in the understanding of how to design a system in order not to generate this negative consequences or this nudging consequences on human behavior, and at the same time generate the level of trust that will then become technology uptake and demand, and would also help the technology thrive going forward. So just to wrap up, if you look at the data and the analysis on innovation in Europe, I don't think Europe really has a problem in research or has a problem in developing innovative ideas. As we often say, and I think many of you hopefully share this view with me, Europe has traditionally had a problem of innovation diffusion, with only a few leading firms being able to catch up with new technologies, but also a problem of innovation uptake, also among consumers. So Industry 5.0 is perhaps a good lens to try and fill that gap, increase diffusion in markets of new technological, social-technical paradigms eventually, and also generate the level of trust in new technologies that then becomes demand, uptake, and then generates a virtuous circle in the market.
Thank you very much. I think at this point of time, we will close the session. I would appreciate the speakers, and I will appreciate the audience and the very good questions that we heard about. So I hope you learned something more about Industry 5.0 in this session, and I would like to thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you,